Good evening. I'm Sean Lanier, founder and executive director for Resolve Solutions Incorporated, and I'd like to welcome you to our first annual Study Abroad Project Global Officer Empower Language Immersion Experiences panel discussion. Resolve Solutions Incorporated is a 501c3 that's based here in Alexandria, Virginia. Our mission is pretty simple. We help students out of high school who want to grow and to become future global leaders. To date, we've helped over 530 students from 23 states earn about $43 million in offers. Going to all of the service academies, senior military colleges, over 200 go to HBCUs, and we look forward to seeing that grow to over 500 students annually. So again, welcome, and welcome to our first annual panel discussion. I want to say thank you to our facilitator, Ms. Malika Morgan, and our participants, Ms. Julianne Cherry from Temple University, Fatima Nadia from Howard University, and Ms. Leah Simmons from Howard University.
Thank you, Sean. Good evening, everyone. So thank you for having us. I'm really excited to be here tonight to talk to our future leaders of tomorrow. I was going to start with a quote from Beyonce, "Girls Run the World." But then I thought you might want something a little bit more profound, and one of my favorite women of all times that helped to change the world and went powerful into her own might was Eleanor Roosevelt. And she said, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." And what you have here on stage tonight is exactly that. Young ladies that are boldly going towards their future, conquering mountains and doing things that many people haven't done before them. I look at these young ladies here and I'm just grateful to be on the stage to share a little glimpse of what their future is going to look like. I wish that when I was in college, I was half as accomplished as some of these ladies up here, from the languages they each speak, to the degrees that they've chosen, to the futures that they hold in their grasp. So I'm going to have the pleasure of asking these lovely ladies a few questions tonight. We're just going to have a fun chat. There's no right answers. You're already Miss America to me. So by all means, just feel free to answer the question and share your experiences with us. So I'm going to start with you, Juliana. So you recently got assessed in your first choice branch, which was the Adjutant General Corps. You're going to be graduating this summer from Temple. Congratulations. Please tell me why you chose that branch.
Okay, coming into college, I always had a passion for medicine, and I thought that I was going to end up going to medical school. Something kind of fell through with my scholarship, and to keep it, I would have to change my major. I ended up switching to public health on a pre-law track, and from then, I kind of got interested in the logistics side of not only just medicine, but life as a whole. So my interest shifted from the Medical Service Corps to either logistics or Adjutant General. So getting that branch was very important for me, I think, because I've always had a strong sense of community and support, and I've always had just people there to help guide and lead me to where I want to be. And something that I'm really adamant about in the future is just being able to do the same for someone else. A lot of soldier readiness is just taking care of them and their families, and someone has always taken care of me and my family, so I hold it near and dear to my heart to just be able to be that personable person for someone, to hear their dreams, their worries, their cries, and to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can to serve them, as someone has always been in my corner serving me. Sean Lanier, my mother, I have probably 20 mentors and just people in my support group, but just to name a few, I think I've always had someone who's been there to help my readiness emotionally, professionally, as a cadet, as a student, whatever the case may be. So that's why I'm really excited to branch that job and to hopefully serve the full 20 years.
Thank you. So Julianne has been speaking French since 7th grade?
7th grade.
7th grade, and had an opportunity to study abroad in Paris for 4 weeks. Tell me about that experience.
Yes, so I guess to preface, I studied abroad prior to this experience. I did, I think it was 4 to 5 days in Montreal, Quebec, in 8th grade. So it was a very structured trip. It was hour to hour. Everything was planned. However, ending freshman year, I went straight to Paris for a month and a half, all alone, with a brand new group of people. a brand
Paris,
new group of people.
all alone.
Paris, all alone. But it was different for me because I was living over there. There was not much structure. I had class like once a day, and after that, I was just free to roam the entire country. and I'm typically a very extroverted person, but it kind of put me in a space of reservation where I felt like I was just in this super big city. So I would liken Paris to a New York, and someone maybe think of me from Indianapolis, Indiana, just stepping into New York for the first time ever and like not knowing what to do, where to go. That's what I would liken my experience to as being in Paris. But over time, I think I got more comfortable with just immersing myself with like Parisian natives and just anyone there. It is a melting pot. There's people from all different backgrounds and demographics who live in Paris. Like I said, I liken it to New York, so you can go there and find literally everything, but I think I had a great time personally because once I started stepping out of my apartment a little bit more and just actually allowing myself to enjoy the experience and not be nervous to explore, I had an amazing time. I got to further my immersion into the French language and French culture, and from that I learned that it's so diverse and there's just so much to learn with it. And I guess I think being a personable being a people person, it was a good experience once I finally allowed myself to, I guess, thrive in that nature in a different country. Yeah.
So how do you think speaking French and knowing another language and the 4 years you were able to, the 4 weeks that you were able to spend in Paris is going to shape your future?
I would say that for me, it taught me that I could never stop learning. Being there, of course, I wasn't this super profound speaker. I could do enough. We could have a conversation, but I found that I could hold that conversation a little bit. But when it came to like assignments and coursework, I was struggling, and I've never been the type to struggle in school. But just learning, I guess, allowing myself to fail in that sense and trying to pick it back up and ground myself and figure out how can I learn their language in the way that they speak it. Because the way we speak it, the way we learn it in the U.S. it's just based off the book. And when you go there, there's a different dialect. Everything changes. But I think that going forward, it just taught me how to, like I said, I want to be able to serve people. So it taught me how to be able to immerse myself with someone else's culture and language, although it might differ from mine. And it does get tricky when there's language barriers and things of that nature, but I think ultimately people across the globe, we are all the same, and it kind of made me feel like, okay, I'm not in this world alone. Everyone's going through their own things. Everyone's trying to seek their own battles or I guess fight their own battles and seek their own destiny, but I guess deepened that passion for wanting to be working with people and serving people.
It sounds like it was a great experience.
It was.
So, Fatimata, if I can turn to you to ask you a few questions. So you're originally from Queens, New York, and you also are studying at Howard University.
I am.
And you're studying international affairs and computer science.
Yes,
okay.
I am.
Talk to me about your choices of why you chose that major.
So ever since I was younger, I've always, crept up in front of the TV watching news with my dad. I think understanding the way that the world works is something that's always been a passion for me specifically. Specifically being a Muslim girl, also being from a different country as well, has always really shaped my experience, and I knew that I wanted to, branch out and learn about the different experiences of other people. That's really the reason why I chose international affairs as my course of study. I think it's very, very important to learn about people's cultures, their religions, the way that they think, because honestly, all of that together can bring us together as a world, as a country, and just in general as well. So that's why I chose international affairs. In terms of computer science, that was really a passion that I found at Howard University. I've never really been the STEM type of girl, but coming to Howard, one of the things that they preferenced was, branching out of sort of your comfort zone. Because if you're uncomfortable, or if you're not comfortable, then you're really not learning. And that's one of the things that I was told. And so computer science was just sort of like a small activity that I did with my friend, learning Python, learning C++. And then I found out that I really liked it, and I've never really been someone, whenever I saw STEM-related things, I was like, no, that's not for me. But, really finding that interest and finding that passion at Howard, and having people that encourage me throughout every single step of the way was really, really important. And that's why I chose to pick up a minor in computer science because, hey, you can be a political science major, international affairs, but you can also have an interest in STEM. You don't have to limit yourself to one area of study because we're human beings. We're going to have, that yearn or that those feelings to branch out and make ourselves a whole, like a well-rounded person. So that's why I picked those two. Yeah.
So you said even as a young girl, many young girls are watching like SpongeBob and other TV shows. This one is watching the news with her dad. I love that because that means you were curious early. And you mentioned in your bio about being a bridge builder. Talk to me about how you feel about being a bridge builder for community division.
So one of the main reasons why I picked up my area of study is because of the experiences that my family has been through. My dad is a refugee of war, and so division is something that he's always known throughout his life, and that's something that he really preferenced growing up, that we can be from many different parts of the world, but language really brings us together, understanding brings us together, communication brings us together. And so just being that person that, steps out of their comfort zone and says, hey, I may be different from you, I may look different from you, but I want to understand how you live your life, how you understand the world, things like that is really, really important in terms of bridging those divides, because we're not different from each other. We're all human beings. We all feel the same. We all understand some things the same. And so it really is just communication on both parts.
Thank you. So speaking of that, Fatimata speaks Arabic, very hard language to learn, and she had an opportunity to do 8 weeks in Morocco.
Yes.
Tell me about your experience when you were there.
So my grandfather was part Moroccan. He died when my dad was 5 years old, and so we sort of lost that part of our heritage. And so going back to Morocco was sort of like a full circle moment for me. It was like, wow, like this is a part of my culture that I've really never had the opportunity to get to know or learn. And so going back was a big deal. It was probably the most academically difficult thing that I've probably ever had to do. The instructions were mostly in Arabic, and I was like, guys, this is this is quite difficult. But the people that I surrounded myself with, we also had another Howard University student go, and she was there. Basically, we helped each other study. It was absolutely amazing. The culture, the food. I don't think any other place compares really to Morocco, and the hospitality is completely on a different level, for sure.
It sounds like it was a great experience. So then you were able to do an additional 3 weeks in Dubai.
Yes.
How was speaking the language from what you guys have learned in a textbook or learned in a classroom versus immersion training and speaking with foreign speakers or with local speakers?
So I think the most difficult thing in terms of Arabic is that there's so many different dialects. So like in Morocco, they speak Darija. In the UAE, they speak the Emirati dialect. And so that was a bit difficult adjusting because when I was in Morocco, all I heard was Darija 24/7. And then coming into the United Arab Emirates, it was the Emirati dialect. So that was a little difficult to adjust to. But my host mom was very, very kind. She would take me to these shopping malls and different just places, meeting her friends, just so that I could get the practice in. And people were very, very hospitable as well. And so that was, I think, being in the United Arab Emirates, it's what really allowed me to advance my speaking skills. So that was definitely an amazing experience. Yeah.
So what perspectives, if any, changed after your immersion in both the countries once you came back here?
I would say, again, people are not as different as, the news or other people might think for them to seem, if that makes sense. So, again, living in the United States of America, I would probably, in my mind, I was like, okay, we have different values, different morals, things like that. But going to Morocco and going to the United Arab Emirates, it's like we all wake up in the morning, we all have struggles, we all feel we all feel the same things. We're all humans at the end of the day, and so that's definitely a perspective that's changed. It doesn't matter what part of the world you are in. We all go through the same experiences, a little different in some parts, but essentially it's all the same.
So you are a sophomore now at Howard.
I am a sophomore.
If you could somehow make it magic and pick your branch and pick your component, what would you like that to be in the next 2 years?
It would definitely be JAG, but I know that I have, you have to pick a different branch before you get into JAG. But I was thinking, I know I have like a lot of time to just think about it, but I was thinking Signo. Actually, you sparked my interest for AG because I also want to be that type of person that is helping people on par. So it might change tomorrow, it might change the day after that, but I do know that at the end of the day, when I do branch, my main goal is to be that type of person to help other people, be a leader, and also be an opportunist, because if you don't take any opportunities, then there really is, there's not much for you to do. Like it's everything about life, I think, is just grabbing those opportunities and being a leader, and also being the best person that you can be to other people as well. Yeah.
Well, I think the Army is very lucky to have all you three ladies, so any branch you go into is going to thrive.
Yeah, thank you.
Leah,
Hello.
so you chose Chinese. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking we're pivoting away from the Middle East and maybe our next horizon is looking into the Pacific. So tell me why you chose Chinese as your language of choice.
So my thought process with picking Chinese Mandarin was, ever since I was in high school, I always wanted to learn Chinese because I was always very fascinated with their culture and how many years dates back to. And during high school, I was not able to take Chinese because by the time I've actually took a real interest in Chinese, I was a junior and it was like a 4-year program level, and I was already in Spanish, taking Spanish for my credits, of course. And so I was like, when I get to college, I'm going to learn Chinese. But my first semester of college, I didn't take Chinese. I took Spanish because, I needed that credit course requirement for Spanish. But what sparked my interest and what pushed me to go into Project Global Officer was it was our second brief at the Bison Battalion at Howard University. And I remember our battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Ko, he had a MS2 speak. Her last name is also Simmons as well, so we're both Simmons. And she told me about her experience in Morocco, learning Arabic. And that really sparked my interest. So I was like, okay, do they have Chinese within Project Go? And they did, and that would spark me to, I spoke to her and I was like, oh, can you tell me about how you did your application process, the process to apply, and did you have an interview or anything? And, she gave me the rundown, and I applied for Chinese, and, I was able to luckily be able to do Chinese here domestically in Dahlonega.
Wonderful. So tell me about your experience in Dahlonega.
So I would say my experience in Dahlonega, it was really good because I would say both of my teachers and my tutors were very amazing. They were very helpful every step of the way, because I didn't know anything about Chinese. A lot of the people who were there, some of them already had classes in Chinese, and they were even in high school there. She took Chinese while she was in high school as well. So I did feel like, I was really behind my peers, but through connecting and communicating with my teachers and my mentors and tutors, it was like I was able to, feel more comfortable in myself and, learning the language. Now I can say I have an elementary proficiency, because I've just started learning the language. So as of now, I can introduce myself in Chinese, my Chinese name, where I'm from, my hobbies, etc.
Were there any challenges when you were going through the program?
So one challenge that I really do have to be honest about, this challenge was how different of people we were, everyone, because Dahlonega is in the rural area of Georgia, and a stereotype that is true in Georgia, a lot of people who live in rural areas, especially in the deep south, they have very, very polarizing political views about certain people, people who come from certain different backgrounds. And I would say that was the biggest challenge I had to deal with, getting up every day, going to breakfast and having to deal with, like microaggressions, racial, very racist stereotypes about, my people and like how we act, especially Black women, how we act, having to hear that at the table and stuff. And, making sure that I stay composed because, I know that's not how I'm like. I know that's not how the Black women in my life act and are. So, I'm not going to let someone with those type of stereotypes get me out of character because I have to remember that they grew up with that. It's not like they were born like, believing that. They were taught that from their parents and their parents were taught from their parents. So it's really just a generational thing. And that was one of the biggest things I had to deal with was communicating with them. How can I communicate with this person without us having to, through that, uncomfortable like conversation about like, my beliefs, your beliefs, and, because I feel like at the end of the day, learning how to communicate with people is what matters the most and the most important. And so that's what I feel like I gained from Project Global Officer was being in this uncomfortable situation because I was one of two Black people there, and then one of the Black people there, she's mixed with white, so I was like really the only like Black person there. So learning how to communicate with people from these different backgrounds, it really did make me better as a person because it's like, okay, now I know how to go into this situation, how to pivot the conversation from polarizing topics with people, and I feel like that's one of the most valuable things that I gained from Project Global Officer because I think it is very important to learn how to communicate with other people.
Well, it sounds like you learned a lot of resiliency from that, and I guess that adversity has really shaped you to deal with anything as it comes towards you in the future. So I congratulate you for that. So you told me about some of your military goals, but if you also had an option to choose what exactly you wanted to branch in your component, what does that look like for you in the next 2 years?
So as a sophomore, I still have a lot of time to choose what I want to do, but I really do know, like in my heart, that I do want to branch military intelligence. Because
she said military intelligence, guys.
I really do want to branch military intelligence because the main component of military intelligence is communication. You got to know how to communicate different tasks and different orgs to like the people who are actually doing the mission. So as someone who really does believe like in communication, MI is like perfect for me to like go through there and learn more stuff. Like I still have more to learn about MI, like I still have more research to do on it, like all the components of MI. But that's really what that's my top choice. Like I'm not gonna choose like 2, 3 might change, but number 1 is MI. And my end goal, like once I get into MI, I really do want to become a Chinese FAO officer. So because I really do think that it's important for us to, have more representation, within that field. And especially as a Black woman, having more like, people of color like in these fields, like, representing us so that, we could be inspiring to others. Because I'm going to be honest, when I was in middle school, freshman year, sophomore, junior, senior of high school, I never thought I was going to be in the military. I thought I was going to be at Stanford getting my business degree and, just living life in California. But that's not how life worked out. And I am glad that life didn't work out like that because now I'm able to, grow more as a person because I'm being put in these different environments.
So has Project Go expanded your aperture of what you think is possible for your life from your experience?
Yes, I really do think that it has because, like I said, the teachers that I had and the mentors and tutors that I had were very amazing teachers and mentors and tutors. And, they expanded my mind even more about what's possible for my life. And even, like, it's still in my heart to, like, want to help people even more because outside of the military, I am very like passionate. I feel like I would be a very great businesswoman. Like that's just what I think I'm going to be. I know I'm going to be that. And, like I said, communication is really important. You got to know how to communicate with people, because business is built on communication. You got to know how to communicate efficiently and quickly to get stuff done. And also like outside of like my personal business ventures, I want to have my own nonprofit that teaches kids in like low income areas, about financial literacy. Because I think financial literacy is like one of the most important things, especially in today's world.
TikTok, social media, just, training kids to just spend, so many ads being thrown in their faces, and, they're just spending all this money, and they look at their bank account, their parents look at their bank account, and it's like, where did $200 a debt get on my credit card at, and their kids, are spending it on Roblox, bucks, or whatever they're spending it on. And I think teaching kids the importance of financial literacy and training kids young will, help us, especially as Americans, in the future, so that our future, as a society is even greater.
Thank you, Leah. So you ladies are very passionate. I love to see that, the goals that you already have set for yourselves. None of you have picked easy majors, let alone easy languages. So how do you feel as being young women on this current stage, as role models in your programs and in your schools, even with you talking to the young ladies about preparing for cadet summer training? How do you think being a woman in this generation is going to shape your future?
Sorry. I think one thing it has done ultimately is just inspire my call to serve. Like I said, I didn't get to where I got alone. I met Sean Lanier at 17 years old, and I'm going to be turning 22 soon. And he's always been there every step of the way. And I think ultimately that just gave me a passion for, like she said, giving back and training up the next generation. I know that's really great that you want to start a financial literacy program. I highly believe in that. And I think that's one thing that Black women, we kind of suffer from not having started those programs earlier. But I know a couple of things that I want to do moving forward is I've had a brother who was homeless before, so I want to make sure that I'm starting a foundation or program to serve and help homeless people transition back into society. Another thing that I think I hold near and dear to my heart is like Sean, I guess I will say Sean inspired my call to serve with allowing Black people or permitting Black people to get overseas. I know a lot of people, I lived in Baltimore for a few years. A lot of people in Baltimore had never left Baltimore, and they were like 40, 50 years old. And I feel like I've been well-traveled due to my mom and Sean as well. But I think a couple of things that I want to get into is just serving the next community, serving the next person. Doesn't matter the race, whatever it is. I just want to make sure that people are getting the experiences to be overseas, to be immersed in not just culture, but into different parts of the world, different opportunities. I think opportunity, like she said, is one of the biggest things that a lot of us fail to seize because of fear or honestly just lack of knowledge of what the opportunity might bring. But one thing that Sean Lanier has taught me is that you take every opportunity, whether you think it pertains to you or not. And that's how I'm here today. I drove down from Philadelphia. I didn't know what this panel was going to become, but you guys have inspired me. You have inspired me. Everyone's inspired me. So I just want to make sure that as Black women, we are continuing to inspire the next generation, the next person, the next soldier, whatever it is.
I think the three of you ladies are already inspiring a lot of people, even just seeing your pictures on the website, reading your bios, everything you've been exposed to thus far. You won't even know how many people you touch and encourage just because somebody said, there's no way I can speak Chinese, and then they started. There's no way I can speak Arabic, and they started. There's no way I can speak French. So I think you ladies are paving a lot of paths, more than you'll ever know. So, Fatimata, what do you feel is going to be a challenge for some young ladies in your current generation?
I think one of the biggest challenges is facing failure. And like Juliana talked about, failure is one of the things that deters our generation from being opportunists, from taking opportunities. Again, I think for sure, one of the main things that I always tell myself is that failure is a condiment that gives success its flavor. And so you can't be afraid to fail. And so when you fail, I think you learn more than what you expect. And that gives you sort of that energy and that drive to do better, to learn more, and to, be that person that paves the way for other girls or other young girls that look like you or don't even look like you, that are just looking for opportunities. And so I think failure is one of the main things that deters our generation. But then again, if you don't fail, how can you learn? How can you grow? And so that's my take on it. Yeah.
I love that answer. Fail a lot, fail often. At least you try. Fail forward, as they say. What about you, Leah?
What I think that young people in our generation will struggle with the most would be, I guess, having compassion and like wanting to serve others, because like I said, it goes back to like, the way they were raised, on the phone, all about me and what I need and stuff. But how can we as a society advance forward if we're not thinking about what our neighbor might need, what our neighbor might do, what our neighbor might, do? And, I think being more compassionate and, having like a heart to, serve mankind is something that I think that our younger generation needs, especially like the way that I'm seeing it. It's like, oh, I want to do what I want to do. And, I feel like that's not a good mentality to have, because, now you're just making it about yourself. But what about the people who want to help you? You're like blocking those blessings because, it's very self-centered nowadays. And I feel like that's one of the biggest challenges that that the younger generation will face, because, they don't have those like experience of going outside, playing, with other kids, and, having to like, share. Because even when they're like in schools, because I did alternative spring break last semester, which is like we go out to like different, states, and we serve the community. And I did youth empowerment, and I got to, work and tutor the kids in school. But also while I was there, I was talking to the kids, and a lot of the kids, I'm looking like at the way that they're maneuvering, they're just on their phones, isolated, isolated from everyone else. And then, you go speak to them, it's like they're not able to communicate their feelings enough. And I feel like social media, especially with kids, it causes them to become more like reserved and like not want to speak with like other people or like socialize with other people, and that in turn could like make them, all about themselves, because it's like they never had to like, think about anyone else because they don't talk or relate to others. So that's my take on that question.
Julianne, Fatimata, Leah, it has been an absolute pleasure interviewing you ladies. The Army is really lucky to have you. I cannot wait to see what you become, how much you change the world. I think from your experience in Project Global Officer and your immersion language training, you are going to be prepared unlike your peers. The empathy, your understanding of different cultures, your ability to look broad and outside of our country is where our global interest lies. So thank you for your commitment to this country, to yourself and your education, and I look forward to seeing what you ladies are going to become.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Hey, good evening, everyone. So my question would be for our three students is that if you could tell the 17-year-old version of yourself one thing, or give that person one piece of advice, what would it be?
If I could tell my 17-year-old version of myself something, I would say get a mentor for every little facet of life. You need a mentor for your emotions, a mentor for professional development. You need a mentor for college development or career development through that. You need a mentor for every little thing that's going on in life, because there is not a one-size-fits-all for life, and I feel like things change day to day. How you feel might change day to day. Your motivation is it's guaranteed to change day to day. And the one thing that has kept me grounded as my trajectory is changing, or as my passions are changing, and as I'm going through life in itself, as a rising graduate, I think is just having a person to go to for every little thing. I go to Sean when I need help with career. I go to him for that. I go to my mom when I need help with emotions, but I also have 10 other people to go to when it comes to different feelings that I'm having. And I think that one thing, like I said when I started this panel, is that my community has shaped me ultimately, and I think that if I didn't have them, one, I would not be where I am today, but I also would not, like she said, be able to have the compassion and composure that I have today. So young black ladies, young black men, whoever it is, find a mentor and guidance for every little thing in life. It is okay to ask for help. It's okay to not know something. And just like she said, take opportunities to learn, take the initiative to learn, do any and everything that you can to not only better yourself, but better others. So find a mentor, find 10 mentors, 20, 30.
One thing I would say to my 17-year-old self is to just go for it. Because oftentimes, like, I was in high school, student orgs and stuff, going around campus, I'll just be sitting there and I'm like, I want to do that so bad, but it's just like concepts in my head. Like there's no action behind the concept that I'm thinking of. And, now that I'm like, I'm 20 and I'm in my second year of college, and I just really want my 17-year-old self to know that it's okay to just go for it. You might like fail at your first time trying like something new, but being able to have courage and to face like challenges head on is like really important because it builds character. Like a lot of the things that I'm learning now, I could have learned that while I was in high school as a 17-year-old, trying out for like new like leadership positions, or even like just speaking, building my communication skills, with the advisors and deans at my school. So that's one piece of advice I would give, because, just going for it, you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping others as well. Going for it, you never know who you might help by just doing what you believe is right. So that's what I would say to my 17-year-old self.
To my 17-year-old self, I have two pieces of advice. The first piece of advice is to take up space. There's never a room that is too small for you not to fit into. I think one of the main things that I've learned from being 17 2 years ago to now being 19 is whenever you walk into a room, just know that you're just as, if not even more important than the people that you surround yourself with in that room. And so take up space and don't be afraid to take up space because you are important. The ideas that you have are important. The things that you have to say is important. And the second piece of advice that I have is essentially just what you guys said. Don't be afraid to take opportunities. Don't be afraid to get mentors. Don't be afraid to ask for help. But also don't be afraid to just be yourself. I think there's a lot of people in this world that, compare themselves to other people. This person may be doing all of these amazing things, or this person may be doing all of these amazing things, but you're doing enough. You're right where you need to be. You don't need to pile on a bunch of things in order to make yourself seem important or feel important. What you're doing is more than enough, and always be yourself, because that's honestly all that anyone can ask for.
Okay, so we've looked backwards, so my question's based on looking forward. And so my grandchildren are older than you. And so it's kind of give you a feel for what I've seen in my lifetime. And tonight's event far exceeds my already very high expectations. And so I want to congratulate you what you're doing, and congratulate Malik as well, because you're part of what we used to talk about when we were kids. And so with so many opportunities that you have now that we did not have then, and I don't say that despairingly, it's just an is. And so congratulate you as far as that goes. Commend you on your accomplishments. You've obviously stayed focused. That's a big deal, and I would encourage you to remain focused. Don't get off track. And so that leads into my question. Where do you see yourself just 5 years from now? Let's start with Leah. We'll start at the end here.
Okay. So I see myself within 5 years as a new, commissioned, a few years into, me being commissioned as a lieutenant. And within that, I see myself, just learning and growing more and, learning more about, my role and, just trying to advance more within the military space, because within 5 years, I feel like that's a very short amount of time. And even if within that short amount of time, there's just so much more I can learn and, experience, through people who have already been in the position that I'm going to, So like she said, getting mentors and, not being afraid to ask questions about things is something that will probably, I will build more on those skills, like finding mentors, the right mentors, and, not being afraid to ask those hard questions, because, it's everyone's first time at life, you know what I mean? So not being afraid to ask questions is something that, I would keep in mind, moving forward into the future.
Well, in 5 years, I will, inshallah, that means God willing, be graduating from law school. And within before those 5 years elapse, I'll be commissioned as a second lieutenant in the military. So I'm excited for that. That's where I see myself in 5 years. But I also see myself coming back to Howard University. I know that some people may say, okay, I'm graduating, I'm not going to come back to my undergraduate university. But I see myself coming back to Howard University, specifically the Bison Battalion. I want to be a mentor for new cadets that are looking for careers in the military. So that's where I will be. We have a saying in Arabic. It's called Allahu Alam, which means only God knows. But we'll see. I will take that jump, and if you see me back at Howard, then we'll see.
Okay, so I'm currently in a 4+1 Master's of Public Health program, so God willing, I would have finished that. I also have to go to Bullock soon. I believe it's only about 3 months in South Carolina, I think. I'm not sure yet, but there we go, South Carolina. So God willing, I would have finished that and hopefully would have already attained my Juris Doctor degree. So on the civilian side, I really hope to pursue health policy, or I suppose corporate law in the medical device sector, as I'm really interested in the legal and medical intersection with that. As far as military work, I would have already started working as a second lieutenant, as an adjutant general, and hopefully just getting well versed in learning the language of what it means to be an adjutant general, and just learning what my role is internally. And I don't know, I really want to help people externally as well, and just figure out the best way to serve people on the job, off the job, whatever the case may be. But I also hope that within the next 5 years, I'm just gaining, overall wisdom as a young lady, and maybe stepping into a new chapter of knowledge and joy and all these good things that life has to offer. So I hope that within 5 years I can learn how to be the best version of myself, or start learning how to be the best version of myself, as I know that is everlasting. You'll always have a chance to grow in any given way. But I just hope that within the next 5 years I can just stay the course and continue to be faithful to my God and be faithful to my process and my plan. And with that, I want to make sure that I'm still bringing people up with me wherever I end up going.
Thank you.
Thank you.